Thanks, Simon. So, a couple of case studies that I wanted to take you through to kind of illustrate this. We tried to choose a couple of companies that might sort of make sense. The first one is a company called Permasense, and some of you might have met Peter Collins at a previous one of these events, the CEO of Permasense. Permasense essentially does that thing on the left-hand side. It's a sensor for measuring corrosion rates in oil and gas pipework. Spin out of Imperial College, and a company we've been working with for a while. Definitely high IP, well protected. It has one problem that it solves. It solves the problem of determining the corrosion rate in oil and gas pipework. Competition is kind of the way it's done at the moment, which is primarily a manual process, a process done by people. There are some other technological ways of kind of solving this issue, but obviously it's not using the same kind of IP, it's done in a different way. So the complexity for this is in the buying process, and this is a kind of typical journey that a high IP company might go through. In every kind of instance like this, you'll have to talk to somebody that kind of determines the value of your product or your solution from a technical point of view, the user. In our case, it was the corrosion expert in an oil and gas refinery. And you can spend a long time trying to get in front of them, or you can do it quite quickly if you're fortunate. And you have the conversation, you agree that there is value, you agree that the product solves a particular need, and then you want to have the conversation about, okay, how do I help you buy this from me? How do you typically buy in your organization? And unfortunately, the corrosion expert is a corrosion expert and he's not a buyer, so this is quite tough. He says, all right, so there's a refinery manager. He seems to talk about budgets and things, and that's probably something you should talk to him about. And the refinery manager says, well, I haven't got any budget, but I've got a director in head office, he might have some budget. And the director says, well, this is a new technology, this is something that you'll have to test, you'll have to do a pilot. I've got some R&D people and a procurement guy, and the procurement guy is the real bad guy in all this. Procurement guy tells you, well, this is an international organisation and you're going to have to talk to our government and you'll have to talk to a local partner as well. So this is all very complicated stuff. There's only one of these guys, only this guy here actually knows anything about your product. All the rest are, they're all in their own worlds, they have their own aspirations and their own reasons to help you or to hinder your progress. You need to be able to be on top of this whole thing. So that's about keeping track of what information goes at what stage, what does each individual require from you, and what do you require from them at each stage. High value sales process means that you are in control of how this process works. Some organizations that you may be selling to have quite professional buying kind of structures, particularly if you're selling to kind of state-owned organizations, public sector. They'll know how to buy the other process for it. Others, I think in many cases, won't have that process. You'll have to help them work it out. So that's kind of first thought for the day on this. Second one is not a clean tech organization, but I think is quite analogous in some of the ways they're going about their business. This company was really kind of suffering from the problem that Simon mentioned just now about having too many problems to solve. It was quite a simple online software tool. Essentially, it took data from a service provider in an outsourcing relationship and tried to make it easy to understand for the buyer. So if you imagine there are two companies here. The operator might be a bank, for example, and the service provider might be an IT organization. There'll be a contractual relationship between those organizations, there'll be service level agreements, there'll be kind of technical data coming from the service provider that needs to be translated. They came to us kind of in a stage where they were essentially competing with Excel, which was the other way of looking at data as a kind of business intelligence tool. They had sold to 5 or 10 companies at a kind of 10 to 20,000 euros a year. So this was a kind of slow-growing business, and we looked at it in terms of this tool, which comes from a book called The Complex Sale, which is another one I recommend you dig out if you haven't read it already. I'm told that sharks don't actually eat other sharks, but this diagram is about kind of illustrating that some messages and some propositions are more important than others. Some of your products will be of incredible strategic value to their customers, and others will be of tactical kind of operational value. And we kind of noticed that the way they talk about their proposition and their business was operational. It was about improving the kind of operational efficiency, making the reporting function more quick, more efficient, kind of easier for the governance team to execute on. And that has a value, and it's not as big as the kind of strategic advantage or risk value. So we kind of got them to look at where their real value was. So in which industry is the governance of operational contracts, outsourcing contracts the most important? Where do we have links because of our existing customer base? Where do we have personal networks? Where do we have a kind of advantage that is something nobody else has? I came up with this line at the top: the least risky startup is the one that only you could have started. And I can't really make up my mind whether it's really clever or total rubbish. But the idea is you have a product, you have IP, you have your own experiences and your own personal networks, and if you can get yourself into a situation where your company is making the most of all of those things, then nobody else will be able to beat you in that. That's what we're looking for. Coming back to this case study, we realized that one of their 10 customers was a market leader in its segment, the telecoms segment. One of the founders had a telecoms background and had good personal networks there. And in telecoms managed services, getting a contract wrong means that you can potentially lose a kind of £100 million contract with your operator. So that's all very strategic stuff. I think I'll skip forward there, but anyway, that's at the top of this shark chart, and they managed to prove what I'm talking about by tripling their annual turnover in a single deal by selling the same product, which I think is quite remarkable, just by talking about it in a different way, talking about it to a different customer set. So there's another thing to think about. You can see that these are very important challenges. You know, you can have the best product in the world, but you can still fail if you can't get your head around this side of things. So that's kind of what we're all about. And you can talk to us here and questions and afterwards. Thanks very much.